The grand hall of the Galactic throne room shimmered with opulence. Rich tapestries, 1,000 years of history woven into fabric, lined the walls. Golden statues of past rulers stood like silent sentinels. And at the center of it all, the Galactic King, a titan of power and arrogance, sat upon his throne. The day had arrived for the most crucial meeting of the century, the peace accord, designed to prevent the collapse of a galaxy teetering on the edge of interstellar war. The king had called for a gathering of the most influential powers, each one bringing their strongest ambassador to the table. But the king wasn't expecting her. Diplomat Anastasia Voryan had arrived with an air of quiet menace, draped in the deep crimson robes of her people, her eyes cold but calculating. To look at her, she appeared as no more than a sharp-witted, experienced negotiator. But to anyone who knew the whispers of the ancient legends, she was something else. She was the Baba Yaga, a title carried through time, a name spoken in fear, whispered in dark corners. A being of unimaginable power, cloaked in myth and legend, whose true face had not been seen for centuries. Humanity had long since discarded the tales, but in the deepest parts of the universe, they were very real. The king, in his infinite hubris, saw only a diplomatic obstacle, a woman, a mere negotiator. He smirked, thinking of how easy it would be to manipulate her into submission. "You may have the floor, diplomat," the king announced, his voice thick with authority as he leaned back into his throne. "But know this, peace can only be achieved on my terms." Anastasia stood unmoving, her gaze never leaving his. Her fingers brushed the silver pendant hanging from her neck, a symbol of something far older than the king's empire. She nodded, silent for the moment, as the hall's atmosphere shifted. What the king didn't know, what no one knew, was that her presence here was not for peace. She wasn't here to negotiate. She wasn't here to talk. She was here to end it. As the king began to present his terms, the other ambassadors listened in, oblivious to the tension building. The king was speaking, gesturing with grand movements, his voice booming with pride. Yet his every word ignited a deeper rage in Anastasia's heart. He spoke of dominance. He spoke of control. And then, the king made his mistake. He turned to Anastasia with a smirk, confident in his superiority. "You may think you're special, diplomat, but the truth is, you're just another piece on the board, just like the rest." His eyes gleamed with dark amusement. "Tell me, do you ever fear your own insignificance?" For a moment, Anastasia's expression remained unreadable. Then, without warning, her hand snapped out. The room froze. The king's laughter died in his throat as he clutched his chest, his mouth falling open in horror. His eyes bulged and his fingers fumbled at his throat. He tried to scream, but no sound came. Anastasia's voice cut through the silence, cold and without mercy. "You should never insult a woman like me, especially not one who has been around far longer than your lineage." The king staggered back, choking, his face turning purple as the invisible grip around his throat tightened. His guards lunged forward, but were stopped by an unseen force, thrown back into the walls with bone-shattering force. The ambassadors looked on in stunned silence. The air thickened, as though the very space around them was warping. Reality itself seemed to bend in the presence of the diplomat. "You foolish king," she whispered, her voice a low growl. "Did you truly believe you could kill me?" The king's struggles grew weaker, his eyes glazing over as his strength failed. The arrogance that had ruled his empire for centuries, the confidence that had made him feel untouchable, it was all crumbling before him. And then, in a final trembling breath, the king whispered, "Who are you?" Anastasia smiled, her eyes glowing with ancient power, and the room seemed to grow colder, darker. "I am the Baba Yaga," she said softly, her voice like the cold wind that heralded the death of entire worlds. "And I am your end." With a flick of her wrist, the king collapsed, dead before he even hit the ground, his body nothing more than a puppet severed from its strings. The hall remained silent, save for the echoing thud of his body. Anastasia turned to face the rest of the assembly, her eyes glinting with an ancient promise. "I was never meant to negotiate," she said calmly, her voice now soft and composed. I was meant to remind you of what happens when you underestimate the truly ancient forces in the galaxy. The remaining ambassadors were paralyzed, fear gripping them as they realized the magnitude of the threat before them. This woman, this diplomat, was no mere negotiator. She was the Baba Yaga, the harbinger of death, the one who wielded the power to reshape the universe itself. Anastasia's lips curled into a small, logically terrifying smile. And now you will remember. With a single gesture, she turned, vanishing into the shadows, leaving behind a galaxy on the verge of collapse. And a galaxy that would never forget the price of crossing the Baba Yaga.